Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's presentation on mastering your retirement. I want to start by just congratulating each one of you for investing time into yourself. This is a very popular topic we're talking about. A lot of Canadians have indicated they have a lot of questions and concerns about planning for retirement or being in retirement. And just by the number of people that signed up for this event today, it just explains that there's just a big need here for having this conversation and learning more about it. Just give you a little background on what we're going to do today. We'll be presenting some slide deck here to you for about the next 40 to 50 minutes. And we'll follow that with a question and answer period. And so for those of you here probably asking, how do we ask questions? So I'll go through that process. First of all, for those of you who are on a mobile device, and that's either a cell phone or a tablet, what you need to do is tap onto your screen. What you should then see are three icons. One will be question and answer, one will be chat, and one will be raise your hand. For our purposes today, we'll be using the chat icon. So if you click on the chat icon, a box should open up, and that is where you'll be able to type in your question. For those of you who are watching this by way of a computer or a laptop, it's a very similar process. Just use your mouse, just get the cursor to move to the upper or the lower end of the screen. And what you should then see is a chat button. So the same process, just click on the chat button, a box should open, and you should be able to type your questions in there. So one of the things that I just want to say right from the beginning, we encourage you to ask questions. I think this is where we get the most value of what we do, is where we can share great information on great questions. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And, you know, in the old days, if you will, where we used to do face-to-face seminars. So this is where we had an audience. Generally speaking, what would happen is we'd do our presentation, there would be a question and answer period at the end. And what would happen is during the question and answer, a lot of good questions, but very generic questions are being asked and answers were provided. When the actual seminar was over, it was always, I always found it very interesting that I would be there an extra hour just to answer the private questions people would come up to me with. And so there's two reasons for that. Some people are just not comfortable in asking questions in a crowd, and I totally get that. Other times, the question is a little bit more personal. It's a little bit more private to them. It could mean it relates to something about their specific situation that they don't want other people to know. So I want you to feel very comfortable to know that we do have a solution to that, even though we can't meet you face to face today. But if you go into your chat function and open up, you should see a link there. And what that link does when you click on it, opens it up to a calendar. And why that's really important is that if you wish to have that more private conversation and more geared towards your specific situation, you can just open up that calendar, pick a time that suits you, and we'll get together with you and answer those questions and give you the detailed responses that you're needing. So I just want to make sure that you feel very comfortable. Please ask questions at any time. I know when we did the face-to-face sessions, we may say something at the very beginning that created a question for you, but you decided to hold on to the question and answer period, and next thing you know, that question is gone. So the beautiful part here, you can ask the question at any time, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. So that's the process for this morning. We'll start with maybe a bit of an introduction. I think that's really important. My name is Randy Janzen, and I am the Division Director for the IG Wealth Management office in Vernon. I'd like to share with you, I've been in the wealth industry for over 35 years. And what I'm most proud of is in 1999, I became a certified financial planner and have been studying and progressing my career along those lines. I've also have a very vast experience in multiple roles in the wealth industry over my time period. And again, what I'm really excited about sharing with you is that I've been on multiple types of investment platforms. So I have a great knowledge of the different products, services that are available out there. So I'm glad to mention that. And for those of you who joined us before we started the meeting, it is true. I am fairly new to the Okanagan area. I've been here for just less than 2 years. I have 4 kids who are all grown up and out of the house. And my wife and I moved here specifically just to enjoy the lifestyle. Obviously, like today, the beautiful weather, and more importantly, the clean air. We lived in Southern Ontario. There was always episodes going through Toronto. And if you've been through there, the congestion, the noise, the pollution is just phenomenal. So we're breathing easy, and we're very glad to be here. So thanks. Now, I want to introduce the co-host for today as well. His name is Sattu Mahapatra. He's not only just a co-host, he's also the partner that we have and we share our client experiences with. So Sattu, can I just pass that over to you? Introduce yourself.
Sure, thanks, Randy. And as Randy said, I'm also a newcomer to the Okanagan, but after 10 years here, I feel like I belong. It's a wonderful community, as we all know. My wife, Bernie, and I moved after years in Hong Kong and Asia, after working in Vancouver for a bit as well to here. So again, 25 years in financial services. So we like to call ourselves the silver foxes of finance, but just a lot of time spent on products and so on. And I really enjoyed being in the advisory role with IG. So, branching out into doing the CFP that Randy mentioned, and then really loving working with people, because that's my go-to. So I look forward to sharing this with you, and I hope to follow up with your own questions as we go through. Back to you, Randy.
Thank you very much, Sattu. Appreciate that. I just want to give you a little background about how Sattu and I became partners. One of the things that Sattu and I do is we share a passion for financial planning. And we found ourselves gathering in the office and just talking about either client experiences, client outcomes. How can we be better at what we do? And so what we then determined is that for a client to have the best outcome, for a client to feel comfortable at night and have that perfect retirement, they need to have a great advisor. So that's nothing new, but a great advisor. I will talk a little bit more later about what a great advisor does, but very importantly, what a great advisor does is very knowledgeable in the industry, should be a certified financial planner working towards that, should have great experiences, not only through very good markets as we've seen over lately, but certainly the difficult markets. And a good advisor can guide their clients safely through that period of time. So we decided that, if we were to be together and to be a partnership, we could solve a really interesting problem. How do we elevate and how do we get a better experience from a great advisor? We thought if one great advisor is good, 2 advisors is even better. So, through our years of experience, our diverse backgrounds, we're able to look at client situations, we're able to have great conversations and provide multiple opportunities and options for a solution. And we both decide which is the best solution. So we're very proud about our partnership. We feel this is the best way for us to provide the best outcomes for our clients. So thank you for that. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes. I don't want to spend a ton of time, but I just want to introduce the firm that we work with. And so IG Wealth Management is probably familiar to most of you. It's been serving Canadians across Canada for over 90 years. And you can see on this map, we do have offices from coast to coast. So that's pretty significant. This slide's a little bit outdated, but I just want to give you an update. Hardworking Canadians have entrusted us with over $100 billion of their assets to invest and manage. And I know the slide says 80, we're up to 100 million. So it doesn't take too long for that to move around. The last thing I want to say that's not on this slide, but it's really important to understand, is the IG has made a significant commitment to the quality of expertise and service to their clients. They have mandated that all consultants or advisors, if you will, must be certified financial planners. So if you're not currently a certified financial planner, you are studying or about to write the exam to become so. There's not many other firms out there that really have set that by that hard around expertise. Very quickly, so IGM or IG Wealth Management is known to most of you. I think what we see in this page is just the powerhouse of a company that we are involved with. So our parent company is Power Financial, and I think many of you have seen them. They're probably invested in most of Canadian mutual funds, very strong financial services company. On the left side of this page, you will actually see a line of business of insurance. And you'll see some noticeable names there: Great-West Life, Canada Life, and London Life. So these are very notable, very large insurance companies that are part of that parent company of Power Financial. On the right-hand side is another line of business, and that's around the investment and advice side. And we'll break that down into two different categories. There's the manufacturing side. So if you look at Mackenzie Investments, I think they're very well known as a producer of mutual funds. Many advisors across Canada offer their investments. So a very strong company with respect to that. And then you'll see IG Wealth Management. We're in the distribution side. We're not obligated to sell any of the product on this list here, as I'll talk about in a moment. But what we're here to do is provide great unbiased advice to give our clients the best options, best investment offers that we can possibly do. If you don't mind, Sattu. So just to clarify, and again, I don't want to spend much time on this. If you look at this page, what you'll see is a number of investment management teams that we've partnered with. So we no longer have in-house fund managers or investment managers because we felt that was too limiting. So our business model is searching for the best investment managers out in the world and then partnering with them so that we can offer their expertise, their knowledge onto our clients. So we're very proud about that. Some of the companies here are well-known investment fund managers that you're familiar with, others not so much. Like for example, Jarislowsky Fraser. Some of you may know of them, maybe not. They are a very unique boutique type of investment management firm that only does business with ultra high net worth. So it's very difficult for the average Canadian to get their services because you need millions and millions of dollars of investable assets. So what we do is, across all the Canadians across Canada, we pool the money together to be able to meet their minimum standards. So very interesting here that we do take a look at all the best managers in the industry and utilize them. Just quickly, if you're working with a firm, you're working with an advisor, you want to make sure that they have a heart and that they're involved in the community. So IG Wealth Management is very known for supporting the community. There's significant donations that they make each and every year. And lastly, as consultants or advisors, we're very involved in the community. For example, myself, I'm on the committee of the Special Olympics for Vernon, also on the committee for the Alzheimer's Walk. As is my partner, Sattu, he's also in the committee for the Alzheimer's Walk and is very involved in the local community in the business side of business. So just want to mention all that. I think, we're a strong firm. We have a lot of strength behind us to be able to offer progressive and very great investment and solutions. So here's why we're here today. What does peace of mind look like in retirement? And for those of you who have not gone to retirement stage yet, it's obviously a really important question, and we need to plan for that. For those of you that are in retirement, there could be potential times where you're not feeling comfortable, that you are very much having sleepless nights and worry about things. And I think the real reason behind that is that you don't have a holistic, multifaceted financial plan. Let me give you an example of a situation. Let's assume that you're going to make a 3-day car trip and you're going to head south. And there's two ways you can approach this. And the first way is you have no plan. You know where you want to go. You're heading south. So you just turn the car, head south, and head down to your destination. Would we do that? Probably not, because we'd probably use the second option. We would create a plan. We would understand where we might stop for gas, where could we stop for a meal, where we might stop for a night. And more importantly, if there was a problem, if there was a blockage, a highway was closed, so an obstacle, we would have the ability to have options and make that adjustment to get us on to the trip on time. So believe it or not, many Canadians just have a one-dimensional plan. And it's almost as simple as, here's where I'm at today, here's where I want to go in the future, that's the plan. What's not being included is the potential for obstacles. So the key to reduce the amount of stress in retirement and to make sure you have a comfortable retirement is having a great financial plan. So I'll talk a little bit about this page. We'll go more into detail as the slides progress, but really what we're here to focus on, as you can see in the bottom left corner, is optimizing your retirement. This is the absolute important part to make sure that you are realizing the lifestyle that you want. But what a really good financial plan will do will prepare you for the unexpected. And so what does that mean? And I mentioned to you a very simple plan is saying, here's where you are, here's where you're going. And it's making an assumption that your rate of return is absolutely level and there's no obstacles, there's no changes in economic conditions, market conditions, nothing. It's just a straight line plan. That's not going to provide you a lot of comfort, especially when there's an obstacle. So what's an obstacle? An obstacle could be an unforeseen market correction. An obstacle could be you're in retirement, everything's going smoothly, but all of a sudden this unexpected large expense comes up and you're wondering, how are you going to manage those things? So if the market drops, is that going to affect your retirement income? Is it going to affect your lifestyle? Are you going to have to change? And of course, that's a difficult situation. What if a large expenditure comes up? Will that impact your income and your lifestyle? And if you don't plan for those events and have what if scenarios, how can you be certain that if that event were to happen, that you would be okay? And that is one thing that we really like to focus on, is making sure that we look at where you are today, where you want to go in the future. We know what your dreams and lifestyles, aspirations are, and we'll make sure that we put in enough alternative options and strategies and plans to make sure that you are comfortable so you don't have those sleepless nights. So when we talk about unexpected events happening, I mean, a good advisor will really focus on that to make sure that your plan has been tested and will be strong regardless what happens. But here's some of the things that you must focus on, and in your plan that you should have should really address these. I'll go into some of these in a little bit more detail, but the first one is longevity. And this is a real fear for many people in retirement. Will my money last as long as I need it to? Inflation is not really talked about very often, but is very important. And inflation just relates to the cost of living. And I'll show you in a slide why it's important to pay attention to it. And if you don't, what happens to your lifestyle. And asset allocation withdrawal rate, we'll talk about that in more detail because that's really important as well. But you really need to have a strong investment strategy and stick to it. And lastly, the legacy. And what we're finding very interesting these days in our conversations with clients is, well, especially if they're in retirement, they're beginning to think beyond that, I won't be here forever. What happens to my assets? What happens to all my investments? And so we're beginning to work with our clients to talk about how can we transition their assets as efficiently as possible, whether to their beneficiaries, their kids or grandkids, or whether or not it's to a charitable foundation. So when I talk about longevity on this slide, I just want you to keep in mind that we all have a life expectancy. And for men, I guess we're a little shortchanged here. You can see that men are looking to, on average, live to 83 years old. More importantly, if you look at the top slide here, 50% of men will live beyond the age of 83. That's pretty good odds, I think. For the women, they live to age 86. And again, 50% of them will live beyond 86, which is pretty amazing. Really startling for me and really important in a planning perspective is if there's a couple, there's a 50% chance that at least one of them will live to age 90. So we need to be able to plan for the long term. In this particular case, where's going to go with that? In this particular case, oh, that's my train of thought. If we don't plan for the long term, and for example, if you retire at age 65, and if you're going to live to age 90, that's 25 years of income that you need to be prepared for. And in the interim, between the 25 years, there are these unexpected events that we need to address as well. So very important that we keep the long-term view on this. This is probably the biggest adjustment that retirees need to make. And if you're in retirement, you'll probably get it. If you haven't gone into retirement yet, this is really something to focus on. So think about this. You began saving for your retirement very early in your age. And maybe you started as early as age 25. And so you're now in a habit of putting money away on a regular basis to grow your nest egg. And it becomes really interesting because we all become very competitive. We're watching our nest egg continue to grow and grow, and we want that to grow as big as possible. So at age 65, that's when we wanted to retire. And we know we'll no longer have income from working. So what is our nest egg for? To provide us the lifestyle that we want in retirement. But here's the problem. We've been trained to save and not spend, and now all of a sudden we're required to spend that money and to see that balance slowly lower itself. really hard to wrap your head about if you've been saving for 40 years. So what the big impact is that if you don't have a solid plan, the one that looks at alternatives and what if situations and unexpected events, you have this fear about your money not lasting long enough. And what's really striking here is that people that are in retirement are so fearful their money won't last for them because they don't know that they're underliving their retirement. So the retirement lifestyle isn't at all what they had hoped for. And it's because they just have no confidence in their plan that their money will last as long as they would. So that's a horrible feeling to have, to know your money's not going to last and you're taking too conservative of a lifestyle. You're disappointed. That's not what you had planned for. So very careful that you have a plan that addresses what if, so that you know exactly what is your sustainable income. I talked to you a little bit about the cost of living. I'll just go over this really quickly. I think this is kind of fun. So let me give you an example. Let's say it's 1960 and you were given a $10 a week allowance to spend. And so in 1960, you decided to go for a cheeseburger, milkshake, and fries. In 1960, that would cost you 57 cents. So guess what? For that week, you could go multiple times to that fast food place and fill up each time, or you'd have extra money to buy other things, or even save some money. So back when the cost of living was just wonderful, you could have a great lifestyle. Go to more recent days. What is the cost for the same cheeseburger, milkshake, and fries? It's just under $6. So it's just that you're only getting $10 a week still. And now it's $6 to go out for a fast food meal. This is a problem that many retirees are not thinking about, but must address. What is the impact on their lifestyle if they don't keep up with the cost of living? So it's pretty significant. And so what I last want to, on this slide here, and this is sort of the worst case scenario slide, and this is what every retirement person is mostly concerned about. What if there's an unforeseen event causing their their investments to drop dramatically, which will have an impact on the quality of their lifestyle and retirement over the long term and their income stream? It's a horrible situation. Back in 2008, the markets would be going quite well in Canada and around the world, but I was a little nervous because I thought our clients were becoming a little complacent with how good the markets had been. So it was my strategy was to contact all of my clients in 2008 at the beginning of the year and do a review, and let's talk about what ifs. What if the market were to fall? How would that impact your retirement income, your lifestyle, and the such? So we had some great conversations with clients, and some clients, because their situation changed, we wound up changing their portfolio a little bit. And so that they would have no worries about a market downturn. In other situations, we had crafted such a proper income stream in retirement that we wouldn't worry about the market conditions because their income would not be impacted. What was very interesting for others is they heard me say that when the markets are down like that, don't panic, but it was also a great opportunity to buy. So for those of you who are living around in 2008 invested, we know what happened in the second half of the year. The markets fell 50%. So what I'm saying to you here is my phone was ringing off the hook when that markets began to fall. And it wasn't for the reasons other advisors faced. It was because they were thanking me for preparing them for this eventual situation, that we had a plan in place and they came out very well. Others called just simply, is this a good time to invest? And we discussed their situation uniquely and decided whether it was or not. So having a well-crafted retirement income plan that covers your short-term, mid-term, and long-term cash flow needs will cover your longevity issues, will cover your cost of living issues, and will give you the peace of mind to sleep comfortably. Oh, I see here's a question here. Thank you very much, Debbie. The question is, back to the previous slide where I talked about the different, a couple more slides back, the round the circle.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. They were talking about optimizing your retirement. She'd asked, well, what's the best investment strategy? Should I put money into a TFSA or should I put money into an RRSP? What should you do? That's a really good question. And quite frankly, we get asked that quite a bit. Unfortunately, the answer isn't as simple as it might seem. I mean, there's benefits for TFSAs and there's definitely benefits for RSPs. But why the question becomes challenging is that we're just not able, we have to look at your situation very uniquely and specifically. to make sure we understand what is the best option, because it's not one size fit all. There's no definitive one is better than the other. It's what's your situation? What are you trying to accomplish? What's the long-term goal? Then we make the right conversation. So thank you much for that question. If you want to know about your specific situation and you really want to know what the best information, and as I said earlier on, maybe you just don't want to talk about that in a group like this, maybe a little more private consultation. What I can ask you to do is just click open the chat, go to that link where it has the calendar, book a time with us, and we'll provide you with a no fee, no obligation, no commitment advice on your personal situation. So thank you for that, and please take advantage of the opportunity to get your answers in a private setting. I'd like to pass the call now over to Sattu. Over to you, Sattu.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, you can mute. You can mute it. Thank you. Yeah, as you know, Randy's talked about begin the conversation around planning, and to your question earlier about the TFSA and RSP, I just want to add as well, I'll be going through a case study which kind of explains what it was like for that client. That may not be pertinent to you, as Randy said, that requires obviously us to look at it in a little more detail. I just want to go through in terms of the sequence of returns. You know, Randy had started talking about what if it's poor at the beginning. And in broad terms, the fact is that where you are in the demographic actually makes a massive difference to how investments work for you. Because, you know, when you're talking about your kids or, you know, grandkids in the accumulation phase, all that they have to do is work with time, because time does make a difference to investments. And volatility. So it doesn't matter if the markets are volatile, they can go for the higher yielding investments. In the distribution phase, which is what we are in retirement, time does work against you, because really you're withdrawing instead of letting things grow, right? As well as volatility. So, you know, the down markets that Randy talked about do make a difference. You know, if something falls 50%, well, it has to grow 100% to get back to where it was. So managing volatility is quite important in your investments. And that critical period, I mean, we're talking about, as Randy said, all our plans are actually down to 90 years at a minimum. And we're talking about 30 years or 35 years in many cases, but the critical period is the first 10 or 15. So that's why we love talking to pre-retirees and retirees and getting ahead of the game. And just, you know, to follow on from that, I'll take an example, and I'm sure some of you have seen these TV ads, and I remember them being on about a couple of years ago. You know, how far will my money take me? So I've got $100,000 of a nest egg. I plan to withdraw $5,000 a year, 5%. This is just a simple, so $600 a month. So that is going to take me to 89. You know, mathematically, I'm 65 at the moment. 24 years is what it's going to last. Well, that's just the average. This is the issue with the average. So the fact that it's going to return a 5% rate, but going to deplete itself in that time is you know, it looks great. 89, I'm fine. But in a world of averages, that means that 50% of people are going to live over 89. And the other issue is this 5% return. So just if you can drill down to that, and I'm sure you've seen this in your own portfolios, right? The sequence of the return. So 5% average could be, in year one, could be 5% up, year two could be 15% down, and year three could be 25% up again. Well, the average is 5%, okay? The problem with that is this sequence of returns, if applied to the previous graph, will have a different, you know, it'll mean that the money runs out sooner or later, and we'll look at what it is. Or it could be counterclockwise, as we show here. You could have 2 great years to begin with, 5% up, 25% up, and then 15% down. What's the impact of that? And, you know, as I said, in this particular case, where it's 5 and then you have a little drop of 15% and then 25%, the problem is you know, the money growth is depleted earlier because it has gone down in year 2 already, even though the average rate is fine. So here we would see that it actually runs out at 83.
That's a significant chunk. I mean, just by a 3-year average being different. And this is why, with our experience in finance, we hate to see advisors talk about the fact that this is the average rate. Averages are only the tip of the iceberg. You have to go below it, because in this case, with that average, right, it makes a 6-year difference to how soon the funds run out, which is pretty significant. In the other case, which obviously looks better because it goes 5%, 25, and then declines 15. It still runs out at 87. It still makes a difference to the time at which it runs out. So the point of all of this is that, and this is just 3 years. It happens to be the first 3 years, which is the most important, but this is 3 years out of this person's 25-year plan, right? So just imagine how many combinations and permutations can happen in that period. So Fidelity, which is a big money manager, had done this graph which showed that if they had a 50% equity portfolio and the rest in fixed income, with a 5% withdrawal rate and a 5.9% hypothetical rate of return, which is historically proven, well, this person would actually last till over 100, right? Looks great, absolutely great. Again, that is the average is the issue. So if we, with our plans, and this is why I love, and I am a numbers geek, as is Randy, the planning process is, to me, beautiful because we provide people with not just this, but the confidence to look at this. And I know this looks ugly, but just simplifying it, what this is doing, so that blue line is still the average, right? But there are many combinations of the rate of return. And that's not the only value. We just looked at one change, right? What is the year-on-year rate of return? Because there can be different permutations. It's not just the 5 minus 25 plus 15. It can be various combinations. Our software models that using statistical analysis. So it shows, this top line is probably one which just has good returns in the right order as well. And so, as you can see, they still have a lot of money left at 100. So we're worrying about its state there. And in this, the worst case scenario, well, they're actually running out at the age of 78, right? And the point is that we can run all of these cases and make sure to a particular level of confidence. So as long as, and we try to aim for about 90%, and it depends on your situation, as long as 90% of the times we can be convinced that regardless of what happens, we are going to see you through your retirement. And that's what we love to do. We love to create plans which, to Randy's point, if markets fall, people talk to us about, as they did in March of last year, about, is this a good time to buy? Because we know that markets are going to go up and down. We just know that we have created a plan, though, with a 90% degree of confidence, hopefully, depending on the situation, that it will see you through. So, that's just, this is part of the living plan kind of thing. And I just wanted to touch on one more thing in, up markets and down markets. And that's about the old eggs in a basket, all eggs in a basket argument. When you're investing, in your accumulation phase, you do want to invest long term, and it doesn't matter if things go up or down. When you're looking at retirement and taking out money, well, we love to create pillars, or call it buckets. I like to talk to my clients about buckets of money. Think about the different buckets of money that you need. So in retirement, you still need a bucket of money which grows long term, right? But you need a bucket of money which is the leaking roof, what if kind of bucket of money, and it's X. And then you need a bucket of money which is earmarked to providing you so much income every month, right? And the point of doing, and there can be different investments which suit different things. So could be an annuity for the last type that I talked about, or could be bonds which generate fixed income. Increasingly hard to do, or it could be in the middle bucket. Obviously, it could be something which is geared towards being taken out within a sort of 3-year period, so it's reasonably secure. And the first bucket which I talked about, which is growing long term still, and it will decrease over time, is one which is invested for the long term. And the thing with this then is, if March 2020 happens, which it will a few times in the rest of our life, and one pillar breaks or appears to crumble, well, we don't have to worry about that, because we can take the funds, the retirement income, out of the other pillars, out of the other buckets. And this is why, working, it kind of brings the planning and the investment side together to make sure that, we're doing something which just suits you. I'm just going to check the chat for questions. Okay, I'm just going to move ahead. So in terms of, as the seminar is called, retirement and taxes, one of the things the plan focuses on to a large extent is how to maximize your retirement paycheck. So it's not only about, doing your plan, it's also about tax planning and optimization, and then figuring out what the results look like. So we have a little case study, and we did a case study because, we can't talk about your particular situation except in person. Again, encourage you, if you do have any questions, obviously, shout them out, or if it's something that requires discussion, please do book in with us. I'm going to take the example of some real people, names changed, Nicole and Sam, who are planning to retire in 2 years' time. So 2022 is their plan. They've done well in life, both from savings and an inheritance through hard work. They've built up about 1.3 million in savings, which is spread across a GIC, some non-registered money, RSPs, and TFSAs. So we will answer your question about RSPs and TFSAs for this couple. And as you can see, they're invested in different things. The standard deviation is basically the risk. It's just a measure of the risk. So as you can see, the retirement funds are in slightly more risky portfolios, which have a higher return. And the other money, the TFSAs, they tend to keep one TFSA in a secure thing because they use it. They have a high current income. So they like to use the TFSA, as many of us do, for rainy day money. You need something, you take it out of your TFSA, right? Which itself leads to problems, as we will see. They also have, apart from their home, they have a chalet. They want to pass it to their son, Al. Okay, so we'll come to Al in a minute, who's just incidentally proposed to a girl he's only just met. So working with an advisor, their current advisor, the plan and the advice they have is, and I'm sure many of us have heard this in the past, well, draw on the RSPs when you retire to spread the tax bite, and avoid taxes to the estate. Okay. I just want to say one thing here. As Randy said, we do in our plans, we do look at estate as well and what's left over. For us, it's always driven by the goals of the client. So we talk to you and figure out what is important to you. Well, if you've got a nice nest egg of 10 million, it's quite likely that estate is more important to you because you're fine. You're going to be okay for income. Doesn't mean income isn't important, because there's good ways to take it out and bad ways, but that's what's important. So, but in general, seeing you through retirement is our first and foremost goal. That's what we focus on. So, so in this case, they want to, avoid high taxes to estate. Is that important to Nicole and Sam? Well, they want to transfer the son to, Al. They pay the property taxes, which is from the GIC. And as I said, Al's just gotten engaged, which is lovely. And they use the TFSAs. So it's kind of a generic plan. It's a kind of a plan which, we see way too often, which is, reactive plan, to be honest. It's, we're going to use the TFSAs because we can, instead of putting something in place which takes care of those things. I'll just check in here for questions. And then in terms of the actual retirement cash flow, so this is what their first year will look like, right? They don't expect expenses to go down. They spend about $112,000 a year, okay? Well, in their first year, once they've stopped earning, they'll get the pension income, which they have, and I'll just mention this, defined benefit plans, which some of you will have, but increasingly we are seeing fewer of. It's a good product to have because it covers you for life. we have to figure out how to match that in your other retirement planning. They'll get the CPPOS. They obviously have the interest income, which goes to pay the property taxes. And then they use the RSPs and TFSAs. That's the plan. Fill the gap by using RSPs and TFSAs. And the gap isn't just 30,000, as I'm sure you know in retirement. The fact that anything that you take out which is taxable obviously adds to the taxes. So there's taxes on top of it. And it's our job to optimize this gap and how it's taken out. So reduce this slightly so as to take out need less. So that was their plan. Then having spoken, and these are fictitious names, Anna. This is obviously from an example from Quebec, but she is a CFP professional. And just like us, we use financial planning software to test different options. It's not part of the problem with, and especially I think once you deal with experienced advisors, is that we know it, right? This is what I've done for X client. We never know it. We always take an ab initio approach. It's your plan, and we have to try the different things to see whether they work for you. It's never, we have the solution, which, we have this product, which, because that's not how it works. So she tries different things. The first one, actually, you would think it's a no-brainer, split the pension income, because the planner hadn't done it. Well, yes, it's a no-brainer. You'd be amazed at how many times we see the no-brainer happening, but that's a given. Then she, instead of saying RSPs are to be left at the end, she wants to see the withdrawal, what is the strategy? And this is something we do in all our plans, playing with the different withdrawal strategies. And this answers the question, or goes back to that question of RSPs or TFSAs. Well, it depends, right? Obviously, RSPs save you taxes upfront. To that extent, they're great. TFSAs grow tax-free. To that extent, they're great. But in retirement, in this case, having built it up, in her case, we should look at whether we should do the RSPs first or later. So that's one of the things you're going to do. She wants to look at annuities, and annuities are a strange animal. I actually ended up placing a couple in 2019 for clients because they've fallen out of favor. But again, they provide a guaranteed income. And certainly, if you look at GICs today, as an example, if some of you are holding it, it's a very expensive source of guaranteed income, and we know where the rates are. So, but again, looking at the annuity to provide some certainty, just like a pension. Then also looking at optimizing the TFSA account. So, instead of using the TFSA account like a savings account in and out, use them for what they're meant for, which is capital growth, if possible in your plan. So in the case of Nicole and Sam, that's what Anna tried to do. And I'll just explain each of these. And then what if they deferred the transfer of the chalet instead of realizing all the taxes now to the estate? Okay. Also, Anna pointed out that, as you know, property which you give to a kid changes hands, when it with a relationship. So at the start of a new relationship, not a great time. So this just shows, from the financial planning software, by putting in all of the information around pension income, annuities, etc. So this is the current plan. What it shows is that, there's a shortfall of about 520,000 over several years for the last several years of their lives, based on what is being planned. And again, this is just factual, planning information. So if she splits the pension income, and we model that in, so that reduces the shortfalls, but it's still about 400,000 of shortfalls, but obviously worth doing. As I said, no brainer. And then the redemption order does something really interesting by, in this case, and it's not every single time, by changing the order to RSPs first and still maximizing TFSAs, they actually do not have a shortfall in any year in this case. But there's still room for improvement. And so by doing an annuity, it boosts the plan's chances of success. It basically boosts their total available income and the estate as well, even though the annuity itself eats into the estate. And then using the TFSAs. Too many people think that registered money is, is pre-retirement, and then post-retirement is only for use. Well, if you have the funds and if it makes sense from your plan, contributing to your TFSAs still makes sense. And that's what Anna shows them here. So, and finally, leaving the capital gain stacks until the final estate. It means that they don't spend all of that money here and keep it to the estate. And it actually, with the number of years growth, it is a better result from them, apart from the girlfriend not possibly having title to it. So all of this, it's great, and it's to Randy's point about one-dimensional plans. It's still a much more multifaceted, but we don't stop there, because one of the things I talked about is this probability of return of rates of returns and so on. So we factor that in, and the way the software does it is by running. We normally run 500 trials. Let's call it 150 trials. And in the initial plan, right? And the reason for running these trials is investment returns change every year. We went through that. It could be any particular sequence, not an average. And that we assume that you live your life many times. So there are different paths that you can take. So there are these 150 paths, right? In what percentage of those lives could you meet 90% of your goals? That's the plan, right? So in this case, the initial plan, it's about 2/3 of the time, okay? And this number, if you work with us, you'll see the importance of it, because our plans, our clients live and breathe this number, because this is the number that we try to, if you know that it's 90% in the end, you know that you're going to get through your plan. So looking at each strategy, so the redemption order, it boosts it up to 83% of the time, okay? Strangely enough, even though the annuity doesn't add a lot of value, if you look at the annuity, it actually boosts the percentage of success massively. It gives them a fixed guarantee almost, by taking something out of the estate. And again, we can explain annuities in detail if we have a follow-up conversation. And finally, investing the TFSAs to their risk profile, which means to their investment horizon, treating it as I said, the long-term pillar instead of stuff that is for income. So the annuity is for income, the RSPs is for income. This is the longer pillar, and taking advantage of that, the fact that they still have 20+ years, boosts it up even further. And finally, the chalet not being transferred until estate improves it even further. So each strategy, and this is how we look at a plan, it's multidimensional and also multi-variable, changes in variables. And that's why, this is why we love what we do, because we can give our clients the peace of mind to sleep at night, and to know that, not to not look at the investments, because everyone should, but to know that there is a plan underlying all of that, which will see it through. So just again summarizing, so in the beginning, without any other change, it was 66% chance of success. That was the net lifetime spending, just over 6 million over the years. The lifetime tax and the net estate, those are the three things that really matter. So by adding the splitting of pension income, well, the lifetime spending goes up a bit because tax drops a bit, right? Pretty obvious. The changing order of redemption, well, you pay more taxes, but you end up with more that you can spend over time. And the net estate does get reduced a bit, because you spend, there's more of a tax bill that goes to them. But that, with the annuity, is it reduces your taxes a bit, but again boosts up your estate somewhat. And then finally, by using the TFSAs for long-term growth, in this example, they are boosting their net estate massively, as well as having a 92% chance of success. And finally, it goes up even further by, and this is why I say your goal is what we work towards. And it's very important that we know it. If Sam and Nicole are most worried about net estate, well, fine, we'll, doing the chalet before could be fine. But here, it actually boosts up the net value, because that tax bill that they pay on passing the chalet now grows more than than the taxes on the chalet. So that was a case study. And again, it's a case study. I'll pause here for any questions that you may have. But again, the link is there. And then I will, yeah. I'm just checking the chat function here. Excuse me. And yeah, there's a, sorry, I am not able to read the name. Mike has a question about the pillars, okay? How do you ensure? So the question is, how do you, I talked about the pillars. I'll just go back very briefly and deal with this question. The question is, how does one ensure that the pillars, you know, even if some of the investments do badly in a downturn, that the pillars still work so effectively? Well, that's a tough question to answer. I mean, in broad terms, we use, you know, we have a multiple range of products on our shelf. This presentation isn't about products, but what I would tend to do with clients is basically use, you know, in a portfolio, we can choose to take income out of fixed income. That's what we did, for example, for some clients in February and March of last year, because a portfolio holds everything, but not all products offer the ability to take out of bonds only, for example. And we can do that with some of the products that we hold. So that's what we would do by choosing the appropriate product to take income out of, because you will need income during retirement. So I'm not sure that answers the question completely, but to be honest, it depends again. Though I hate saying this, it does depend on your scenario. So, you know, by all means, do give us a shout and, you know, use that link to book us in. Again, we love going through, you know, your individual plan and then seeing what makes sense for you. We won't be doing a full-on planning session, but, you know, you will see you will see from here what the value of that is. So thank you for that. I'm going to pass it back to Randy now, having done all the boring numbers, and let him speak.
Thanks very much, Sattu. Obviously, what you have just said has resonated. Bill writes, look, I love the case study. There's some things there that kind of feels a little close to home, some things he was thinking about. And I was wondering if it's possible that we could, you know, have a conversation with him and to talk about what his options might be. And so absolutely, that's, as I said, we're trying to make this as comfortable for you as possible. So I'll refer you back, Bill, to the chat feature. There is that link there that opens up the calendar. Please pick up a time that suits you. And Sattu and I will be there together to be able to understand your situation a little bit better so we can give you very specific advice. So I appreciate that. So thanks very much. So let's look, and we're kind of at the end of the stage here of the presentation. Thank you very much. What I'm looking at here is really, and you'll see the commercials on the local TV channels. It's talking about IG, the living plan, and what it really means to, it's not a plan. A good financial plan isn't you set it and forget it. It's about it continually adjusting to as the client's needs adjusted. And so that can be done with regular reviews. And we're very about client outcomes and client relationships. And so it's really important that you understand that to be successful in retirement is continual monitoring and adjustments and conversations. So what we do initially when a client comes in is we very much get to know you. We build those relationships. We build that trust with you, because this is a really personal matter. And we need you to feel comfortable with us and feel safe with what our recommendations are. And I think that's key in any advisor-client relationship is having that trust relationship. We really will take time to understand what your current situation is. And it kind of brings me into a situation where I attracted a new client, and it was probably not by purpose initially. It's just the way it worked out. I happened to be invited to a local golf tournament, and I was on my own, and I was paired up with another gentleman, and we had a great conversation. He was asking what I do, and I asked what he did, and we were talking about his family, and he'd indicated that, you know, that he had a child who had a disability. And so I began to talk to him about what the options were with a disability and the programs that are out there. And he was really interested to learn more about that, very excited about it. And he kind of said to me, you know, that's funny. I've met you for 5 minutes, 10 minutes now, had this conversation, and you know more about me than my existing advisor. And he's been dealing with his existing advisor for 25 years, had a great relationship with them, at least he thought so, but that advisor never spent any time to really understand the current situation. And so because of that, he didn't feel he was getting fulsome advice, and therefore, he let the other advisor know, I'm sorry, we've had a long relationship, but I don't feel that you've been doing everything you can for me. So there's a story about really getting to know you. And it's obviously to know what your goals and objectives are. And that's part of the planning process. And what your plans and goals are today could inevitably change. So we will, through regular conversation and meetings to adjust to make sure that we can make your plan sustainable. And that's when we develop a comprehensive hand, as we just talked about, you looking at all the different strategies to minimize taxes, optimize your retirement income, and to give you that peace of mind for yourself. And not one size fits all, as Sattu alluded to with that the pillar program. We're not here to push product. We're here to provide solutions, and we'll look at your unique situation and make sure that you've got the best setup in your investment portfolio to ensure sustainable income, last for as long as you need, as I mentioned, to cover, with considerations with taxation and obviously the cost of living. So we'll make sure that your income is so guaranteed in the retirement that is set up that you'll have peace of mind in that period of time. And of course, we talked about not one-dimensional financial plans, but very holistic. So that's a little bit about the process, what our commitment is. And this is where I guess it's the moment of truth. And this is where I want you to start thinking a little bit about your personal situation. And so when I talked at the very beginning is what constitutes a great advisor. These are the points that Sattu and I came up with. And we thought we'd make it a little bit interesting. And so you would, I'm going to go through each question and I'd ask you, maybe on a piece of paper, a pen if you have it available, just to keep track of your yes answers. Because at the bottom, you'll be able to score your advisor very carefully. So very simply, I hear from my advisor at least once a year. And once a year is such a minimum standard, it's not even appropriate. But if you don't even hear from your advisor once a year, you would have to say no to that one. I get a response from emails within 24 hours. And remember, that's a real big issue. If you've got a concern or need something to be addressed, you want to have the confidence to know that there's a team there available for you to be able to get back to you as quickly as possible. We have talked about guaranteed retirement income beyond CPP and OAS because there's so many options as that you had demonstrated. So if you have a good plan, you've looked at all the different options available. The next question is, I just moved my little box here. My advisor asked me questions about my life goals and aspirations. And as I said, how do you build a plan without knowing what's important to you and what you're trying to strive for? And as I said at the very beginning, it can change. So you need to have constant conversations. So if your advisor is not asking you about these things on a regular basis, then maybe they're not updated on what you really want and need. I have a copy of my written financial plan and it's updated now very often. Well, let's just think, not everyone wants a written financial plan. So let's be clear, we are mindful of the environment. It could be an electronic version, but the point I'm making here is that there should be a plan that you can follow and continue through with. If you're in a relationship with a partner, have all of the views been addressed? So it's not a one-sided conversation. Both partners should have a point of view, and we need to address them. So does your advisor look at both of you when they're looking at decisions? My advisor tries to help me improve my financial habits. Are they teaching you? Are they giving you better instructions on how to be successful? Answer yes or no. My advisor covers matters beyond investments like debt, taxes, insurance. Again, this is part of the holistic planning. If they're just focused on investments only, they're not looking at the full plan. I have a clear understanding of what I have in my portfolio and why. Answer yes or no. I have maximized all income splitting and tax deferral opportunities, as we saw in the case study, very important, yes or no. My advisor has clearly explained the cost of ownership of my investments. Are you understanding exactly what the costs are and what the impact is on your long-term retirement plan? My advisor is a CFP, very important, yes or no. My advisor understands my risk tolerances for losing money, and we have talked about it on a regular basis because our risk tolerances change. Has everybody? Can you answer yes or no whether you've had a recent conversation? I have a current will and power of attorney, very important into estate and legacy planning. Yes or no? My advisor is a he's a simplifier. I come out of interactions with great clarity. This can be very sophisticated things, but as long as you understand it, it's brought to you in simple terms, easy to follow, greater opportunity for success, yes or no. And lastly, I'm confident my savings will last through retirement. And again, that's what we've been talking about. This is what it's all about, having the plan in place. But if you're not confident, then please, answer that to no. So if you want to know if you've got a great advisor, just look at the number of yeses and determine where your advisor is. So if you're getting 14 to 16 yeses, congratulations, you have a great advisor. That's exactly what all clients should be striving for. If there's 10 to 13 yeses, that's a pretty good job, but there's still room for improvement. And of course, anything below the 7 to 9 range or 6 or less, it's really time for a second opinion, or really maybe your advisor isn't really working as hard as they should be, and it's time for a new advisor. So our commitment to you, again, is if you'd like to have a consultation, or if you even become a client of ours, we'll provide both of us exclusive we'll focus exclusively on you and your situation, make sure that we provide you with the confidence that you have that peace of mind at night, that when you go to bed, no matter what happens, you know that you've got a covered. We'll keep you informed. We're very much about keeping you involved through newsletters, webinar information sessions like this. But a smart investor is an informed investor. Our commitment is delivering service excellence. And that's what we said we're trying to improve on amongst anyone else that's out there. And we believe we have a team in place to be able to do that. And of course, we're committed to the community. So I think very important. So you've met the team at the very beginning, Sattu and I, but we also surround us with other people that we help that we think are very specialized in what they do. We have Olga Kovalev. She is an insurance and estate planning specialist. So her expertise is solely on that area. We have Kevin Van Ralta. So we have a gentleman who is so experienced and knowledgeable on investment planning that he can provide support to us. So if there's a very complex planning situation, we have expertise to really to assist and help us with that. And of course, we have a lending planning specialist, Lisa Janzen. If somebody's looking for some debt to help their financial situation, we have somebody in there. So very strong team, well-rounded, and we're very happy to be here. So as I mentioned before, we encourage you to reach out and make an appointment with us. We'd love to do this. This is our commitment to you. And we're all about providing financial information to the benefit of yourselves. So there's no obligation, absolutely no pressure, it's a no pressure consultation. We're really excited about providing financial advice to Canadians. And those that really value what we do and want more of what we do actually become clients. So we're pretty happy about that. But here's what our no obligation, no pressure consultation, free as well. We'll have a number of questions, and we'll provide you personal advice and strategies to maximize your retirement. We'll give you the top 3 strategies to reduce taxes significantly in retirement. So we'll share that with you. We'll give you the top 2 strategies to lower the impact of market volatility in your portfolio right now. Again, the market has been really good lately. We should be mindful that markets don't always go straight up. And lastly, we'll give you 2 strategies for that. And we'll show you how to take the emotion out of investments, because when you do so, it creates terrible decisions. So we'll share those strategies, no obligation with you. All you need to do is just book an appointment with us online through that chat box and that link, and we'll set up a time, and we'll love to be able, both of us, to go through that. So that brings us to the end of our conversation. So thank you very much. This is a question and answer period time.